Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be discussing feats. Feats are an optional feature, although most people play with them, and a lot of people forget that they're an optional feature, that player characters can take at certain points throughout their career. At levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19, a player gets a choice. They can either have an ability score increase, bumping their main stats and giving them a buff to basically everything that they do, or they can take a feat. A feat is a ability that is usually pretty powerful, and it changes the way that you play the game in fundamental ways. They have to be pretty good to be able to beat a +2 to your ability scores. And today we're talking about the Barbarian. Barbarians are a very unique case because there's a lot of feats out there that grant magical abilities, the ability to cast spells, even to non-casters. But Barbarians, by the very nature of their fundamental rage mechanic, don't use spells. They can't even use basic spells without dropping their rage. So how do you build a Barbarian? Well, you lean into what they can do. I've prepared a top 5 list of feats I recommend Barbarians consider while they go through their career. Before we begin, though, I'd like to let you know that Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on my channel. There's a join button just below the video. You click on that, you get a little badge next to your name into the comments, and you earn my undying gratitude. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting me here on YouTube. So let's start off talking about Barbarian Feats with an all-time classic. This is honestly my #1 recommendation for any Barbarian to consider when they're talking about feats, and it is Great Weapon Master. This feat has 2 powers. First of all, whenever you kill an enemy, reduce them to 0 hit points, or score a critical hit, it grants you a bonus action attack. So when you do manage to crit or kill, you get to attack again. But that's the flavor text here. You'd think, an occasional bonus action attack would be great. But the real reason we're here is for the damage boost. When you attack with a two-handed weapon, you can choose to take a -5 to hit with this weapon. The way I envision this is that you are taking your time to really wind up and swing really hard with this massive weapon, which would give an enemy a bit of a telegraphed attack, so they would have a better chance of dodging it. But in the event that it still hits, even with that -5 penalty, you then do +10 extra damage. Just to put that in perspective, a level 1 Barbarian attacking with a greatsword that has a 16 strength is going to hit for 2d6 plus 3. 2d6 averages to 7, and 3 is just 3. So that means that every hit with a greatsword, this Barbarian will do 10 damage on average. If you then take Great Weapon Master at level 4, or if you happen to be one of those races that gets a free feat at level 1, you are, for a cost of accuracy, you're hitting less often, but when you hit, you're effectively doubling your damage. This then gets further increased by the fact that you can reckless attack, giving you advantage, kind of canceling out that -5, and when you get extra attack, you can do it with both attacks. So you are doing 20 extra damage if you hit, which is how Barbarians do insane damage with their massive weapons. And then there's a second feat that I actually recommend to pair with Great Weapon Master, although it stands very nicely on its own. Polearm Master. Polearm Master says that when you are wielding 4 specific weapons, glaives, halberds, quarterstaffs, and spears, when you attack with these weapons, you can use your bonus action every turn to attack with the blunt end of the weapon, effectively doing a slash and bash. This attack uses the same attack bonus that the weapon does, but only attacks for a d4 plus your strength modifier. And yes, this bonus action attack does work with Great Weapon Master. So, for a barbarian that has both Great Weapon Master and Polearm Master, if they have extra attack, they are attacking 3 times a turn, and if all 3 attacks hit, they get to add the plus 10 from Great Weapon Master to all 3 of them. But even if you don't have Great Weapon Master, Polearm Master has a second feature. Normally, when an enemy leaves your reach, you can use your reaction to opportunity attack them. But with Polearm Master, you can actually opportunity attack when they enter your reach. An approaching enemy can be opportunity attacked with a polearm. This means that with an enemy's running at you, running away from you, you can weaponize your reaction more frequently. And of course, when you do attack, you get to bonus action attack anytime. So Polearm Master works great on its own, and when paired with Great Weapon Master, it's almost unbeatable. But barbarians aren't just about dealing damage, although they love to do that. They also are about taking damage. Barbarians' Rage grants them resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. And the next feat is going to make that just that little bit more juicy. The Tough feat. Tough is very simple. It adds 2 HP to your hit point maximum for every level that you've progressed. So at level 4, if you took this feat, that would be 8 extra hit points that you would gain. And then it continues giving you extra hit points for the rest of your career, an additional 2. Now, barbarians already have a phenomenal pool of hit points with a d12 hit die and a priority on their constitution. But speaking of constitution, the way you normally calculate hit points is that you would roll your hit die, or take the average, and add your con modifier every time you level up. A +2 to your constitution modifier, in addition to giving you better constitution checks and saves, also would boost your health by 1 every level. The Tough feat is the equivalent, health-wise, of taking a +4 to your constitution. So if health is all you care about, and as a barbarian it's basically the biggest thing you do, the Tough feat is better than any ASI could possibly be. So very, very high priority, and you can take it later in your career and it's just as strong. But because barbarians are all about doing and taking damage, sometimes it can be a little difficult to make a utility build out of them. But there's one option that I think is great for a barbarian to consider: Telekinetic. The Telekinetic feat is a half feat. This means you still get a +1 to one of your ability scores. Telekinetic lets you choose a mental stat, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. I recommend wisdom since it's one of the most common saving throws out there. And then you gain 2 things. You gain the Mage Hand cantrip, which you're not going to be using in combat anyway, so a barbarian could use this Mage Hand, which also happens to be invisible, by the way, outside of combat for utility-based purposes. That's not a bad idea. And then you gain a bonus action shove attack. It's not really an attack, it's a shove. When you use your bonus action to do this, a creature makes a strength saving throw, and if they fail, you can either pull them 5 feet towards you or push them 5 feet away from you. Notice that this is forced movement, so you can shove creatures away from you and then get away from them, not provoking opportunity attacks. Saves you from taking the disengage action. Or, if a creature's staying out of your reach, you can pull them towards you, and then if they try to run, you get to opportunity attack them. Or just pull them towards you and attack them, since all you used was your bonus action. And yes, this does not count as casting a spell. It's a feat-based ability, so you can use this even while you're raging. And that's some utility that barbarians do not normally get. Finally, a little bit of an off-the-wall feat. This one's from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons and would require DM buy-in, but there's no prerequisites to this feat. The Gift of the Chromatic Dragon. This gives you 2 powers. Firstly, you can use your bonus action to imbue a weapon with elemental damage. The standard dragon breath: acid, fire, cold, lightning, or poison. The imbued weapon lasts for 1 minute, and every time you attack with it, it does an extra d4 of that elemental damage. That's an average of 2.5 per attack that you are getting added on. And there's no cost to this. There's no cost to hit like Great Weapon Master has. Yes, the damage boost is lower, but because it's elemental, it also can get around damage resistances quite easily. And it doesn't take concentration, so a barbarian doesn't have to concentrate like you would with another weapon enhancing effects that would come from a spell. The other thing you get is a reaction, a new reaction that grants you resistance to the elemental damages. Again, acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. The idea is that this is very similar to the spell Absorb Elements. It just doesn't have the damage dealing effect after the fact, but it also doesn't cost a spell slot. It's not a spell. It's just a reaction in its own right. This grants a barbarian, who's normally resistant to regular damage, it also grants them resistance to elemental damage, which is huge. It does kind of cross over with the Bear Totem Barbarian, which grants resistance to all types of damage except for psychic. But if you don't want to be a Bear Totem Barbarian specifically, this feat will cover a lot of that ground. Now, you can only use this reaction proficiency bonus times per day, but that's still a couple uses of Absorb Elements. And because it doesn't cost a spell slot and you're not going to use it for anything else, use it. It's a very, very good defensive ability paired with the weapon boosting offensive ability. And that's fine by me when it comes to barbarians. Anything that boosts your defense in ways that you're not already boosting and your attack is just fantastic for any barbarian build. All of these are fantastic for barbarian builds in general. And I say that when you're looking at the feats you're going to get, yes, taking an ASI to boost your strength and constitution is wonderful for a barbarian, making you hit harder and tank better. But these feats should give you pause. If your DM allows feats in your game, any one of these would be a phenomenal one to throw on your raging character. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more feat reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.